episode is sponsored by Methil Diamonds, a diamond sourcing, manufacturing, and custom jewelry company. Methil Diamonds, driven to manufacture diamonds and inspire jewelers. Hello and welcome to Conversations with Khofana. I'm Khofana Medise, and today is the Forbes Leading Women edition of the podcast, and I'm very privileged and honored. You know, I really don't like saying that, by the way. Privileged and honored. I'm excited. I'm so excited and so grateful to have the editor of Forbes Women Africa, Renuka. How are you?
I'm privileged and honored.
Oh, geez, I take it back. I'm privileged and honored again. I'm so excited to have you here. And for those who don't know, can you please just introduce yourself the best way that could properly define who you are?
Okay. I'm the managing editor of Forbes Africa. I've been with the Forbes brand in Africa for the last 9 years. Enjoyed every second of it. So much so that I've actually run out of adrenaline, really. And as I said earlier in my speech, you know, you can't do this job, or any job for that matter, without ambition and adrenaline. So for me, it's that fuel, it's that rocket fuel in your system that keeps powering you on. And any job, when it becomes a calling, it ceases to be a job.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it never is 9 to 5. It's a constant mission to look for new stories, uncover new talent, look for the unsung heroine. You know, celebrate her, showcase her, so that the world has a perception of Africa that they've never seen before. So every story, every page, every word, you're adding to that narrative. It seems like the drops in the ocean, but you know, at the end of the day, on a day like this, that's when you see, you know, the 4D realization of your magazine in 4D.
Yeah.
And you see the magazine pages unfolding in front of you in the flesh.
Absolutely brilliant.
That's what makes it all worth the while.
I love that. Earlier during your panel discussion, you talked about how ideas, I don't know if it was a panel discussion, you're actually speaking rather, and you said that ideas can't win unless they're heard.
Yes.
And how does the editorial industry kind of really push the narrative and push ideas being heard worldwide, especially within the African...
I don't think we're doing it enough,
Yeah.
to be honest, but we do as a brand.
Of course.
But I'm generally saying, I don't know if, you know, we're focusing on the right things. Sometimes the mainstream media, we tend to look a lot of the doomsday or, you know, protests or, you know, what's going wrong with the society. But I think in my context, and it's especially development journalism, entrepreneurial journalism, Forbes is generally known as an entrepreneurial voice, you know, entrepreneurial capitalism. That's what we showcase. But in Africa, we go a little bit further.
Yeah.
Because this is the world's youngest continent. We have got 6 of the emerging, you know, fastest growing economies here. And I think there is a greater responsibility on us as storytellers to also talk about the future in the present. You know, I don't think we do that.
The future in the present?
We don't do that enough. Look at you know, by 2050, most of the young people in the world is going to be in Africa, and half of that is going to be women.
Yeah.
Isn't that a powerful narrative by itself? Does it need to be spelled out? But unfortunately, we're having to spell it out again and again, keep reiterating that, you know, having women, hiring women is smart business sense, economic sense, political sense. You heard the minister speaking this morning that South Africa has made great strides, a country like Rwanda has made great strides. But has there been enough, you know, that of a push? So I feel that positive Africa rising story, that growth story, you may have your naysayers about it, but it is real, you know. And you look at this room today, I had so many people walking up to me and telling me about what they do. And they needn't be your, you know, top A-line business tycoons. These are people operating as minuscule, small-scale entrepreneurs. There could be a farmer, there could be the kind of stuff that they tell you about the hurdles and the barriers of entry that they had to undergo to get to even make that one step. It makes you want to really hold their hand and say, hey, I'm with you. And I don't think, you know, we as the media are doing that enough because we get carried away with a lot of the other things. But I think we at Forbes Africa, we've always managed to capture that very well.
All right.
You know, that undocumented person who needs that, needs to be a part of that positive narrative. That's what we bring forth. And when you say entrepreneurs, actually means the SME, the informal sector, the township sector. Everybody is involved. And financial inclusion is a big topic on the continent. You're thinking of mainstreaming them, and all of these big SDG, the mantra that we have for 2030, none of that is going to happen if we don't focus on these areas.
It carries such a huge responsibility, especially because of the Forbes brand and how well it's been built. And now you're both on print media, you're on social media.
We have a website.
You've got a website, you're online and you're in print, so you are reaching a vast number of people through various mediums.
That's where it is a bigger responsibility, because you're amplifying all of these messages and you need to do it right. So there's a way in which you do it for social media, the way in which you do it for the website and for print. So you've got to repurpose different stories that you have, but constantly, keep up the momentum. You cannot afford to slow down. And as an editor, I cannot afford to slow down. My team cannot afford to slow down, because we need to be there at the forefront. We need to keep pushing out the right message.
How do you select? How do you say, okay,
my team.
How do you select, say, this is the theme for this month, and this
it's always an editorial collaborative discussion, but then we plan the covers months in advance, and we also get we also get directive from how Forbes does it in the US, and they've been doing it for more than 100 years. And BC Forbes, the founder of Forbes, always said, business is not about making millions, it's about creating happiness. It's about creating happiness. At the end of the day, what do you want money to do? Buy you better things, it makes you happy.
It makes you happy.
Give it to someone else, it makes you happy. So it's about creating happiness. And with that happiness in default mode in Africa, you have what is called compassion and sensitivity. It should be in default mode for any journalist in Africa, because you cannot tell this story without having that humanitarian connection with your audience. Right? You cannot write about the man on the street unless you feel for him, unless you empathize for him. So that's a very important aspect of your job. That sensitivity should be in default mode. And and the humility too. As you grow, I always tell my team, the more you grow, the more humble you should get. And it's very easy in this profession to get swayed. You're meeting business tycoons and billionaires and first ladies and presidents. I've myself met so many African presidents. The more you meet them, the more you know you don't know. Right? It is very easy to get swayed and think, oh, I've got all these fancy bylines and covers and I made it. No, you haven't. I've been in journalism for more than 23 years. And even now, I feel like a cub reporter. Every time I'm doing a write-up, or I have a cover story, or I'm sitting on a panel, and I'm thinking, am I going to be able to do this? I never feel that I know anything. I feel I don't know anything. The more I'm progressing in my career, the more I'm learning that I know nothing.
Absolutely. I'm having a moment. So the theme today, or for the 2023 Forbes Leading Women, is Women 3.0, and what does that mean in terms of looking at a new era or a new phase of feminism?
Definitely. So it's Women 3.0, the icons and ideas shaping Africa.
Shaping our Africa. I think the our part was something that really touched me.
So icons and ideas, self-explanatory. Why Women 3.0? It's a take on Web 3.0. But more than that, we're talking about not even the next generation of leaders, the generation of leaders that we have now that are advancing the generation that's going to come tomorrow. So the onus is not on the next generation, it's on the current generation to bring that next generation up. So they also by default become Women 3.0. So if you look at the women in our 50 over 50 list, what are they doing? They are actually giving that helping hand. They're going multi-generation and saying, hold on to me. I'm bringing you up. So they have as great a role in this reverse mentoring and this digital age that's going on, because they're offering their well-entrenched experiences to these younger people who are very tech savvy. But these are the women who are saying, this is how you do it. This is a rule book. Or you don't want the rule book, throw it out. But we're here to mentor you.
You're right. The principles remain the same throughout the ages.
So the Women 3.0 for me, it has does not really mean young people or technology or, the next generation. It means the multi-generations that are all a part of developing the next generation. You understand? So they as much a part of that young generation as the young generation
it's not
is.
segregated anywhere.
No, it's multi-generational.
It's continuous.
So the multi-hyphenate is also not just the millennial, but also a woman like me,
Yeah, the
in
baby
my
boomers.
50s. Yes, you saw that panel, on the 98-year-old change maker on that list. What does that say? And she's unstoppable.
Absolutely. Now, talking about technology and how it can help drive empowerment. So, how has Forbes used or harnessed, the power of technology and digital transformation?
So we have a website, but technology is a great leveler. So a woman sitting in a farm in Africa, with little data, whatever, the telecom revolution in Africa is really big. She does not need her husband's permission to send a message to someone or get on a WhatsApp group or look at the internet. So technology is a great leveler in that respect. So I think more than how we've used it, it's how, we're understanding how Africa is using it. Like, for example, you don't have power in South Africa. And there are so many young people coming up with these modern, fancy gadgets. We're capturing solar energy. And, so there are a lot of lessons that we're learning from them. You understand? So rather than even teach them, there's so much that we are understanding from these younger people, like these innovators that we had on stage today. They didn't have fees to go to college, right? They had financial hardships. They couldn't go. The one girl couldn't do her pilot's training because she didn't have enough money. And then she goes, it's just that epiphany of the moment. She goes for a soccer match. Friend gets injured, takes her to hospital. There's a long wait for the x-rays. And then she and her twin sister says, why don't we develop digital x-rays? So I don't think technology is an elite thing anymore. Some of the greatest technological innovations can come from the deepest corners of Africa. And that's where we need to look.
Right.
I don't want to look at the economic hubs of South Africa or, Lagos or Johannesburg to understand what technology is. I'm more keen on what's happening in the DRC or Mali. Who are these young innovators sitting there and having this light bulb moment? Am I reaching them? Am I documenting them? Are they being heard? That goes down to my message in the morning. You have to, ideas don't work if they're not heard. And where do they need to be heard? In the deepest, darkest, when I say dark, these are corners of Africa where there's no electricity. The deepest, darkest corners of Africa is where you need to reach out to them and hear them.
I see there's a sense of, how do you put it, journalistic accountability and responbility.
Absolutely.
You have, right?
It is not, as I said, I don't call it journalism anymore. I call it generalism. I tell my people, I tell my team I'm a generalist because, again, you're a multi-hyphenate. You need to be able to understand different realms of your own subject. I can't just say that I'm a print magazine, I'm an editor of a print magazine. I can't say that anymore. I have to have multiple references. I have to have, just as I connect with a billionaire sitting in Tanzania or in Dubai, I have to have that same emotional connection and empathy for Africa, and that's the only way we can bring this continent to the forefront, right? So it's that sort of multiple reference point, is that duality in your job is very, very important. And when I say duality, it's money, it's meaning, it's profit, it's philanthropy, it's power, it's purpose. They all seem like opposites, but they're not.
Okay, sorry, another moment I was having there. Earlier you spoke about courage, character, and curiosity, and how those are somewhat building blocks of, women leadership and so on. So can you just break down why those three particular pointers were so important?
Courage is linked to confidence. I don't think people and, the women are confident enough. See, forums like this are important because it helps bring that out.
Yeah.
So for the Spotlight segment, every year when I curate that segment, the story always finds me. I don't, even when I don't.
It's a calling, right?
It's a calling. So I identify these speakers and I curate that segment. I identify them. And when I go to them, I have several Zoom meetings with them and they say, oh no, I don't think I'll be able to do this. I can't speak on a stage, and see what they do up there.
Yeah.
There are so many of them who are not natural speakers. And after every year, after the Leading Women Summit, they become motivational speakers in their own right. Now, how are you enabling that as an agency of change? So that's where I come in as an agency of change, isn't it? It's not for me just a question of putting them in the spotlight and telling their story for the sake of, filling the content in the.
Right.
There is a larger purpose.
Yeah.
I'm bringing them under the spotlight, and I'm changing their life. In some way, they become better speakers, or they become better agents of change themselves.
Yeah.
And that is the confidence and the courage part.
Yeah, and then curiosity.
Curiosity.
That's scary, you know? To be curious is scary.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be curious to make it, you have to. I'm constantly curious even now. I'm very curious about what's happening, around me. Maybe that's because I'm a new sound, but I'm always curious. And this summit is behind me. I've already garnering contacts for the next one. And it's not even about making the summit even better than last time. It is about bringing a fantastic collection of people together and forging alliances and partnerships that they never imagined possible. So you're actually creating this community without you even knowing about it.
Yeah.
Everybody who walks out of here is already inexplicably now part of a community that they haven't realized. Right? The spotlight cohort, the class becomes a community. So you're forging unlikely alliances that you never thought possible. They're unlikely partnerships. And therein you form a community of like-minded women and who give opportunities to each other. Right?
Yeah.
That is where a summit like this is also a connector in that respect. You're just connecting people, the dots. The connecting the doers with the doings. Yeah.
I'm applauding for you in my mind right now. So you also, something I'm appreciating throughout our conversation is just the way you think. So I'm just wondering what's been your work philosophy for the past 23 years in journalism?
I think, I started out journalism at a time in the 90s in India when there were very few journalism institutes. I was a topper, university topper in my class when there were 25 boys. 25 boys, 4 girls.
Jeez.
And my professor said, you girls are going to just cut chicken in the kitchen, get married. I stood up, and I think there was this feminist in me even back then. I said, no, Professor, I challenge you.
You said
I'm going to make you eat your words and feed you that same chicken, and I'll prove you wrong. And a few years later, he calls up and he says, you took my words very seriously. You should give yourself a life. You should be, you're too serious about your job. But he became my mentor after that. And I think I'm very grateful to the men who've challenged me. I'm very, very grateful to them. They don't realize that when they challenged me and they said, I cannot do it, I've had so much toxic masculinity thrown at me in my 23 years. And those men I'm very grateful for. Because
they made perspective, hey?
They made me who I am today. Otherwise, I would never want to have lived up to those challenges. They were challenging me, and they didn't realize that in provoking me, I was going to prove that I can be better than you.
Yeah.
So those same people, sometimes they come to me and say, we're so proud of you, and, you actually, that's when I'd say, I'm very grateful to them.
Right. Yeah. I really like that perspective as opposed to, taking the position of a victim.
No, that's why you'll never find at this summit, you'll never find male bashing. A lot of people say, women's summit. Okay, the stereotype associated with the women's summit is, they're going to thrash the men. And, never. That's never been my stand. And as a group as well, we believe in dialogue, not a monologue. Women put together in a room cannot have the dialogue. We've had male panelists as well. We had a couple of men speaking today. It can never be a monologue. It has to be a dialogue. And the good thing is that we've got some great men who are certified good men, and they're
good men.
Yeah, they're part of our gender journey.
Yeah,
they believe in us and they want to be a part of this journey. And we're not asking them to lead us. No, you just join us. Join us from behind and watch us go
join
forward.
Us from behind.
so it's just we will lead and then you follow us. That's the attitude. So, but it's not about gender. Women's empowerment sadly has some very bad preconceived stereotypes about it. It's very cliched.
Yeah.
Yeah. That woman. Okay, women, feminism. So many stereotypes about feminism. It's a very bad word and a loaded word. But it's not true. Feminists are we also love men. It's just that we have a certain purpose, and it is important. 100 years it's taken us to get this far.
Yeah.
And then a 2-year pandemic completely pushes back gender parity even further. It's another 132 years you got to. But what really is gender parity? I'm not talking about, I'm not saying that I want, physical parity or, or I want it. I'm talking about the cerebral parity. I'm not saying I'll be able to go, drive a truck or which we do anyway, but, lift a heavy boulder. I'm talking about cerebral parity.
Yeah.
Understand that even I'm capable of doing what you do. Talking about cerebral parity.
Right.
And that is important, but unfortunately, there's a lot of implicit bias against people. I can give you an example. The other day, I was at one of the, it was a Sunday and I'd just woken up and I was craving apples. Okay. So
That's
I've got
a good craving.
Yeah, that's a good, apples and milk or something. So I went to the store and I wasn't looking like an editor, obviously. I don't know what an editor looks like though. But anyway, I was standing there and there's this gentleman, he must be about 32 years old. So he was dressed in, it was not like he was well dressed. So he was buying a copy of the magazine, Forbes Africa. So I was very chuffed and I said, by the way, I'm the editor of that magazine. So he says, yeah, right. So I looked at him and I said, I'm serious. I'm the editor of the magazine. He says, And then I thought, I don't need that validation from him. There's an implicit bias.
Yeah.
Right there. He is saying, what he's telling me without saying it is, you don't look like an editor, you don't dress like an editor, you're a woman, you're Indian, or whatever he has in his mind, race, caste, sex, all of this. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but I thought there was an implicit bias in that, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the magazine was bagged, so he obviously couldn't open it to see my picture there. But I'm sure he went home and I hope he saw my picture in the editor's.
I'm sure he did.
He regretted it.
Sure he did.
But I guess, women face this in every sector. We've had the mining panel, the liquor panel. Would you actually identify, people who look like me or, this is certain, it's unfortunate, that we need to come out of these genderisms or these kind of negative perceptions of what women should be. I think those definitions, but thankfully they're changing and it's evolving, and I'm seeing that change. It is very, very, so when I joined the Forbes brand 9 years ago, I didn't see this enough. And now I'm suddenly, there's this fresh breath of air, the last 2 years, 3 years, I would say. We've gone very, very far.
Yeah.
At least, as far as we can, but I can see noticeably and visibly that transformation happening.
And, really just appreciating the work you're doing in people's minds and, you affect one, you affect a community, you affect a family affects a community, society, then the world eventually. So I can't help but appreciate the work you're doing and the passion as well.
It also helps that I have a very passionate team.
Yeah.
I can't do this alone. There's no way I would do this alone. No. The entire group, the ABN group, I'm very blessed to be a part of a team where everybody comes together and collaborates and they understand, they're on the same page with you. The vision, and it comes from the top, the vision percolates down to each one of us.
Yes.
And I always like to believe that my team, it's such a well distilled, when you distillate, you get the finest at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's what I have.
Oh, wow, that's so brilliant.
Yeah, I have that finest, that purest, the best, who are completely even before I say something, my team understands.
They already get it.
And then even before I say, I need this cover, okay, we do this, and they know exactly how it should be done. So for me as a leader, I don't want followers in my team, I want leaders. So I have leaders in my team.
Leaders lead leaders, right?
Yeah, I have leaders in my team. They're all independently, they're leaders.
Oh, wow.
And I never have to worry about it. But they come to me for counsel and I give it to them. It's my responsibility as their mentor to be there for everything, editorial guidance, personal guidance. And that's a part of developing them as well. And when they go on to win awards, every year we win awards, I'm so happy. It just brings me such amount of, it's just wonderful. I'm so proud of each one of them.
And we're proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you. We have a section on the podcast called One Word.
Yeah.
Still coming up with a name for it. Maybe you'll help. Okay. And it's sponsored by Sunrise Gems, which is an African woman-led diamond jewelry company.
Oh.
And so they'll be gifting you.
No, I don't take gifts.
Don't have choice.
No,
So-
I don't take gifts.
Or you give it to your daughter, maybe. I don't know.
No, I don't have kids.
Oh, you'll give it to someone in your team. I've never seen someone reject gift this much.
No, I never take gifts.
Why? Is that a thing?
All my life, yeah, I just believe in, I don't accept. It's just a journalistic ethic that I have. Because, when you take, okay, for example, if you're at a press conference and they're giving out gifts, or if you attend a special preview or screening and I just feel that it affects my judgment, or, I will not be able to be honest about them when I'm right about them.
Yeah.
Because then somewhere they say, so I don't want that influence.
That's such a principled
thing.
thing.
It's an ethic thing.
Yeah.
I don't. But if someone sends me a plant, or if there's candy
Still
and all that, I still give it to my team.
Yeah.
But I like. There
like
have been
plants?
people send me plants, and I love that. Flowers and plants I'll accept.
Really?
That goes.
Okay.
But anything else, people want to offer you expensive things.
But that makes sense. It makes sense. But either way, you can offer it to your team.
You give me coffee, tea. Flowers, these are things, because coffee in Africa is great. So those are things that I will accept. If someone gives me, I will accept a bag of coffee or something. But no, nothing else. It just goes against my journalistic ethics.
So you'll give us a number, a name, and we'll gift that individual. How's that? You'll think about it?
The greatest gift you can give me is if you can buy our magazines.
I always buy it.
Go to the retail shelves and buy
I'm always buying them.
That's my gift.
At least give me one word that would probably define the phase you are in your life, or how you'd want to leave your legacy. Just one word.
I think the legacy I want to leave is I want to develop more African journalists.
One word, in one word.
In one word. What is the one word? The legacy?
Is legacy the one word?
No, it isn't.
Oh, it is the one word.
What is the one thing that I want to leave?
I think in a word, just in one word, yeah.
Impact.
Ooh, yeah. That's deep. And so overall, what is the overall impact that you'd like this particular summit and for summits to come to have on other women and men and just people within Africa and those watching?
It should resonate across the continent. And this is not just a summit in a ballroom. It has to go beyond that on social media. The messaging needs to go out. I told somebody today, the summit does not end today. It just begins for a few days now, because it gets onto social media. And there's so much, the reverberation of it is held beyond the ballroom. So it's felt and heard. And it has to be felt. It can not just be heard.
Right.
You need to feel it here when you speak to someone that you've connected.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll find with you, so see you next time. Connect with me on all social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram @Mfana Modise.